Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of Vegan Proteins Muscles by Brussels Radio. My name is Giacomo.
And I'm Danny.
And this is our 93rd episode.
Hey everybody, welcome back. I know I sound a little bit ridiculous, but I apparently caught the Plantbuilt cold that everybody at Plantbuilt caught.
Plantbuilt pneumonia, the Plantbuilt pandemic, I don't know what it is. Something.
Dan Austin said it's Plantbuilt withdrawals that we're going through. But it's not COVID. I'm sure of that. It's just an annoying cold that makes me probably sound weird on a podcast right now.
I got the crap kicked out of myself leading up into Plantbuilt. I literally did have pneumonia. I got my lungs tested. And then, I first had a virus that turned into pneumonia. So I feel like I was sick like 3-4 weeks leading up to Plantbuilt. Somehow, miraculously, even in this dieted down competitive state where my immune system is not good anymore, I did not get sick.
There's some research out there, and I have absolutely witnessed this to be very true for myself, where it's like you kind of stave off illnesses when you have a really big deadline that you have to accomplish, and then right after that, kind of everything kind of starts to fall apart. I've witnessed that for myself a million times over.
Yeah, I totally agree. I'm surprised that it hasn't happened to me.
Because you're not done yet, baby.
No.
You got another month of competing.
Yeah, you're right. I do have another month of competing. Honestly, though, I was a little surprised because I usually, like you said, after a big event, there's a little bit of a crash no matter what you have going on afterwards. And, my adrenaline definitely spiked up and down, and I definitely feel the fatigue post-show. But yeah, I kept on going. I competed just 2 days ago again. Yeah. And it wasn't my best showing because of the stress, but I did it.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy to compete the week after Plantbuilt. But you did it. So that's what we want to talk about here is Plantbuilt. Because we've been home. Tomorrow night it will be a week, and we want to talk about it while it's still as fresh as humanly possible. And we have just been absolutely bananas, crazy, insane, trying to catch up and keep up with all the things that happened kind of because of Plantbuilt. So I know we've been saying we're going to be doing Plantbuilt soon. Plantbuilt's coming up. Well, Plantbuilt happened.
Yeah, it did. And honestly, I think it was everything that we wanted it to be and so much more. I think because we have done this 4 times.
Nope, 5 times.
This is the 5th time. We have done it 4 times. We did it a 5th time. This being our 5th time doing this thing, we were no strangers to how to run the event. Also, we had a bit of a break. So I think the desire was there, and also the reprieve from the pressure of doing it every year or every other year, right? We had a chance to sort out other areas of our life, personally and professionally, and then, of course, be like, oh man, missed this. So I think for those reasons, it went really well. But more importantly than that, the team brought it. The team really, really brought it. And we had, in the past, the team would do this all together, and you and I would manage and run things, whereas now we have even more support internally, right? With Susan and Robert, Susan being our brand manager. I can't thank her enough for all the hard work that she put in. And Robert has been just indispensable in helping us make sure that we get this message out and helping us plot, plan, and prepare for everything.
Yeah, well, even though Robert's never run Plantbuilt before, he has not missed a single event. He's been there for every single one, and this was no different. But this year was very, very different because every Plantbuilt we'd run previously was in Austin, Texas, at the Naturally Fit Super Show, which no longer exists. So we had to find another event that had all of our sports going on at the same time and were natural tested events. This was not an easy thing to find, but we finally, after years of kind of keeping our eyes peeled for an event, finally found it in the Mr. America competition in Atlantic City.
And this thing fell into our lap too, because we pivoted away from niche organizations that were drug tested and smaller sports festivals, and we went towards mainstream fitness. That's what we targeted for our work, meaning the Vegan Strong team went and toured at the Olympia and the Arnold.
Yeah, and those are not drug tested events, but nobody was competing.
Correct.
We were just standing there at a table talking to people about the benefits of a plant-based diet. What Plantbuilt does is night and day from what Vegan Strong has done in the past. Plantbuilt is a team of athletes that competes. So this year, with a lot of, coming back from COVID, a lot of the events that Vegan Strong usually goes to, attendance is down, it's a little bit smaller. We said, well, what can we do to keep this going? What if we took Vegan Strong, which is its own entity, and Plantbuilt, which is mine and Giacomo's nonprofit vegan athlete team, what if we kind of combined all of our resources and tried to do this thing up even better with all the resources available to us? So now we are the Vegan Strong Plantbuilt team, which is a mouthful, I admit, but it's important. So that's how we went into Atlantic City. And initially, we were going to have bodybuilding, powerlifting, CrossFit, kettlebell, and Olympic lifting. But unfortunately, the Olympic lifting competition itself got canned like a month out. So some of our Olympic lifting team kind of shuffled over to CrossFit, and others just couldn't do it. But hopefully next year, there will also be Olympic lifting.
Should be. And the important distinction here for Mr. America that needs to be more than noted, it needs to be emphasized, is that it is an iconic festival. It is the oldest festival running, older than the Olympia, older than the Arnold. So it has deeper roots in bodybuilding and sports festivals in general. It just never took off like those other events. And the Weeders and whomever, the powers that be, wound up for whatever reason gravitating towards other festivals. So this one was like dead in the water for a while. But it is so iconic. The roots are so deep. And so it gels and it's cohesive with what we're doing, touring these mainstream fitness events. And they switched to doing it in a natural drug tested kind of way, which was like,
amazing.
I can't think of a more perfect scenario for us.
Yeah. So a lot of people have asked, okay, why'd you pick this show instead of something like the Olympia or the Arnold? And the reason is because the IFBB/NPC is what is always at the Arnold and the Olympia. That's what they are, right? They're NPC shows, they're IFBB shows. And that's cool, but they are not tested events. They're just not tested events. When you go into those events, it is just understood that a large majority of the competitors are on some kind of performance-enhancing drugs. And no shade to those folks that choose to go that route. Like, I literally don't care what other people do with their body. But as a vegan athlete team, like a vegan strength competitors team, as it stands, we already get steroid accusations left and right. And, it does us some justice to compete in natural competitions. And, people will say, yeah, well, you're probably cheating. I mean, okay, I'm sure there are people that do cheat natural competitions, but we're not those people. And it's certainly a deterrent to people who want to take drugs. Like, there are competitions for those people. Go to those competitions. There's no shame in it. It's just like, natural bodybuilding is so important to me that it makes me really happy to see a show like the Mr. America keeping that alive when they could have made way more money. Frankly, they could have made way more money and gotten way more notoriety had they gone the untested route. So I just think it's really super cool.
I didn't even think about that. Hats off to all of them, honestly, for having that level of integrity.
Yeah, it's just very cool. So Giacomo and I decided a year ago, like, yeah, I think we can do this. I think we can pull it off. And we had to convince a lot of people that we could do it.
Pause. You thought that we could pull this off. And I was like, Danny, I put this dream to bed. I put this idea to rest. It can't be done. Like, we're growing our business. We're more focused on coaching people. Our personal life matters. And we got too big for our britches the first time we did this. How are we going to do it again? Bigger and better. Because for me personally, it was like, I don't want to do something unless I improve upon it every year. If it's just like back and forth and causing me more stress than it's worth, then like that level of resentment will affect what we're doing. And what's the purpose of being on board a sinking ship. But you were like, no, Giacomo, you can do this. We can do this. The team can do this. And once again, you were right. How's that feel to hear that?
I think I convinced you and we just decided together. That's how I feel about it. But hey, whatever, however you want to frame it, it's fine with me.
So anyways, once the commitment was there, everything came together pretty fast, actually. The whole team, the Vegan Strong team, rallied behind this. We got approval across the board that like, yeah, we're going to do this thing together. And once I got the green light to recruit and y'all like gave me athletes to recruit, I had fun with it. I took a trip home to visit my family and meet my nephew for the first time because it was like, he was like already 6 months old. I was like, I got to meet you, bro. And on the way down to New York City from where we live, which is near Boston, 5-hour drive, I had a list of 30 people. I'm like, hey, you want to do this? Hey, you want to do this? And overwhelmingly so, the vast majority of athletes committed. And yeah, we had some drop off, like some just weren't able to make it for personal reasons. Several athletes got injured. That's just the nature of competition. But the majority of who was recruited fully committed to this thing and saw it through and did just what a job on all of it.
Yeah. So I feel like I need to step in for some clarification here because I do get some of the same questions over and over and over again, whether it's via email or social media or whatever. So I'm going to explain a couple things. Vegan proteins is mine and Giacomo's business. That is our business. It's what pays our bills. It's our coaching company. That's Vegan Proteins. Vegan Bodybuilding is Robert Cheek's company. It has existed since before we have, actually, but that is Robert Cheek's company. Vegan Strong is an advocacy group run by people that are not me or Giacomo or Robert. Different people have brought us on to help do this advocacy work at all of these expos. And Plantbuilt is a nonprofit team of vegan athletes that Giacomo and I started that is separate. So this is super confusing to a lot of people because we have such kind of overlapping businesses, but they are all kind of separate things. So I just wanted to explain that, first of all, because people are always super confused by it. And hey, maybe I just confused you more. I don't know. The other question was, how do I get on Team Plantbuilt? And this is a great question. And there are so many absolutely awesome, mind-blowing vegan strength athletes out there that we just hand recruit them at this point. We don't have an application process or anything like that. We just hand pick them based on a lot of factors. How decent of an athlete are they? And equally as important, how much do we feel like they are a good representation of a healthy, compassionate vegan lifestyle? Those are equally as important. So if you have reached out to us on social media to say, how do I get on the team? That's helpful because just by doing that, now you're on our radar. We're going to go check things out. But we only have so many spots that we can fill because this is a very expensive endeavor. So we have budgets that we need to stay well within. So that's why it's not just like a, free for all. Anybody can apply and anybody can do it. So I just wanted to clarify those couple things before we continue with this saga.
Mm-hmm. And certain spots need to be filled in certain ways, right? We need to even out the team as far as how competitive we're going to be and how we're representing as individuals and as a collective. You can also go to plantbuilt.com and hit the contact button, or you could email me directly, Giacomo, Giacomo @plantbuilt.com. So both of those ways work too. And I do promise you that anyone that reaches out to us to let us know who they are and where they're at with their sport, we do take that into consideration.
Have you guys heard of the Vegan Cruise? If not, we want to tell you about it because we are so excited to be presenters on the 2023 cruise, and we would love to see you guys there. So the Vegan Cruise is exactly what it sounds like and so much more. It's a cruise from March 17th to March 24th that leaves from Miami and will be visiting Belize, Honduras, Costa Maya, and the Bahamas on the beautiful MSC Divinia. It is so cool to wake up in a new country, every day of the trip, seriously. But as if that wasn't enough, one of the biggest drawbacks of most cruises is that there's nothing vegan to eat. I had a client actually go on a cruise recently, and she said she was shocked at how little she could eat, and for that price, it just was not worth it for her. But that's not a problem on this cruise because all 3 meals are fully catered, vegan, and made by gourmet chefs. You will never be hungry. There are also get-togethers like ice cream socials and pizza parties out by the pool. Very fun. And to top all of that off, the cruise is absolutely loaded with some of the biggest leaders in the vegan movement giving lectures, presentations, and classes. Folks like Dr. Greger, Dr. Barnard, Dr. Clapper, Robert Cheek, Juliana Hever, and so many more, and of course, us. We will be hosting exercise classes and giving presentations on plant-based fitness. And of course, we would very much love to spend time with any of our listeners who come out. So if you're interested, click the link in the show notes to book your spot because it always sells out, and mention vegan proteins when you book and you'll get a $50 onboarding credit at the vegan bookstore. We look forward to vacationing with you guys.
All right, so we started heading down there last Tuesday. Without any traffic, it would be a 7-hour drive from here to Atlantic City. You said we live near Boston. That's really generous. We live literally a stone's throw from New Hampshire. So we were driving down there and we got like 4 hours into the drive and I was like, oh yeah, don't we have to swing by Vegan Treats to pick up the desserts for the after party? And for those of you who don't know, Vegan Treats is probably the most famous vegan bakery in the country. And it's awesome and amazing, and it's kind of in the middle of nowhere in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. So we were like, oh yeah, we do have to do that. So we started detouring to Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, which was a 2-hour drive out of the way, and then 2-hour drive back on track. And we're calling and emailing, just, hey, just want to make sure that our order's ready for pickup because it's supposed to be ready for pickup. No answers. We get there. It is not ready for pickup.
They did have a nice Halloween spread, though, and we did partake in that.
Yeah, they had. I mean, I had never been there in person, so that in and of itself, little bucket list item checked off. I got a pumpkin whoopie pie there. It was so ridiculously good. But then it was actually really challenging to get these desserts. It was intense.
Yeah, and there was, oh gosh, I just assumed that would be ready ahead of time because I was like, no, don't deliver, we'll pick it up. And they were like, well, I asked them, I said, is that possible? And they were like, yeah, it's totally possible because we can make it up to 2 weeks in advance and freeze it. You just need to keep it somewhere. So that was implied, but not fully understood as far as our pickup date goes. Because I wasn't like, hey, we're coming on this day to pick it up. There's just so many moving parts that the ball gets dropped here and there. So, but I did expect it to be ready somewhat ahead of time based on that conversation. But because I didn't clarify and ask for that detail, missed that important point, and sure enough, it wasn't ready. And then we were all scrambling to figure out how and when to pick this up, and it almost became a real problem. But fortunately, we had a hero
volunteer, Jim, one of our closest friends who actually lives here, who also drove all the way down from Haverhill, Massachusetts, drove 5 hours round trip to go pick up these desserts. But it was a monumental headache. And somehow out of the entire weekend, there were 2 monumental headaches. One was getting the desserts for the after party. The other one was getting all the athletes to check in. Oh my goodness.
We didn't experience that with the booking agent for the hotel we were staying at previously. So it was came out of left field. And I don't know what happened with that, but we smoothed that out as well. But yeah, expect the unexpected. The weirdest things happen, and the stuff that we were actually worried about, that all ran. So yeah, it just goes to show it's helpful to worry, because when you worry about things, you actually wind up making sure that there's nothing to truly worry about because you're planning ahead.
But it was kind of funny. So we didn't get into the hotel, which was at the Tropicana, which is right on the strip, until late at night. And Giacomo checked us in, and he was dealing with all these boxes in the car because we had so much stuff. And I'm like, I'm just going to go up to the room. And I get in the elevator, and it's 68th floor. And I was like, oh, look at that. That's the top floor. And I click the button, and I get off the elevator, and I'm like, these ceilings are higher than I remember them being. And then I go down the hallway, and I walk into the room, and I literally just start laughing because it's not a hotel room, guys. It's a 1,400 square foot ballroom. style place with like 2 living rooms. And I was like, what is this? So they must have been really happy to have us there, apparently, to stick us in that room.
There
But
was
like,
a sign on the inside of the room. There was a sign that showed the max occupancy, 40.
our hotel room had a doorbell. That's true.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, we didn't need to book a separate conference room because we could have just all met in our room. But hey, you live, you learn. And Robert, I think, got in the next day. We showed up a day and a half early to get everything ready and settled before athletes started arriving. It's kind of like the calm before the storm. And then on Thursday, the athletes started arriving. And Atlantic City is not like the easiest place to get to, depending on where you're flying from. You either have to fly into Newark and drive or fly into Philly and drive. So getting everybody to the hotel was interesting, but this weird thing starts happening, and it's always happened with Plant Built. You know, we did handpick these athletes, but many of them we'd never met. We've never even had, other than Giacomo's phone call, I've never had a conversation with them. I just know what they look like from the internet, you know, but all of a sudden you're just walking down a hallway in the hotel and you're like, excuse me, are you Nick? Are you Nick Squires?
Why, yes, I am.
And, you know, that just keeps happening with various vegan athletes. And it's like, it's kind of surreal to realize you're all there for this thing that you've been planning for a year, and you just start seeing little clusters of vegans kind of all over the place. It gives me like chills to think about it.
No, I want to go back. Take me back. Take me back.
Yeah. So that was cool. And then we met up on Friday morning, was our first official meetup. And we met in this conference room, and it's just crazy. There's like 30 of us total. We had we had the athletes, obviously. We also had a volunteer team. We had a media team there to capture as much of it as possible. Every team, so powerlifting, bodybuilding, CrossFit, kettlebell, has a captain as well. So there were a lot of us, and the little meetup in the morning was so neat. And then that's where everybody got their uniforms, which were the shirts and the hoodies that say Vegan Strong Team in huge letters on the back. So now the hotel is straight up infiltrated with all of these jacked people wearing Vegan Strong Team hoodies moving through it, which is a really cool thing to see, in my opinion.
And then everywhere we go, too, like when we stock up on our groceries for the weekend, we infiltrate the local natural food store, which was Bonterra Market, and they came through. Like, they had such a large selection of vegan goods, and the team had a field day there. Same thing when we go out to eat, like whether we went out to Vegans R Us, all vegan restaurant, comfort food. So good, so good. And then the pizzeria wasn't vegan, but they had, I don't know,
a huge vegan menu.
Like 10 pies.
Pizzas, as we call them.
They're pies.
Pizzas, but okay.
So they had like 10 different ones to choose from. And I hit up the guy beforehand, and I'm like, hey, Tony. He's like, name's Mike. I was like, all right, Mike. He's like, we're coming through with some vegans. He's like, oh, we'll be stocked up. We'll be ready for you. And I was like, cool. And they brought it.
Yeah, and it's such good pizza. It's really, really good pizza. But that's not what we're here to talk about. Pizza, Giacomo.
Sorry.
So Friday was neat because it was the photo shoot day. Everybody had to get their photos taken, collecting testimonials about our sponsors, who our main sponsors were Zao, who actually we're going to talk about one of their products more at the end of this episode because we got a question that was just kind of perfect for it. Unisoy Jerky, which is fantastic, and Ultima Electrolyte Hydrator. So people were talking about their various favorite products and getting that recorded, but also all the teams were kind of getting to know each other a little bit. And it's always just really cool to see, Vegan Strong Plantbuilt team is one big team, but there's sub teams within it. And they kind of just like naturally break off to talk about, like CrossFit was talking about their strategy on how they were planning to tackle the competitions on their day. Powerlifters are just always having the most fun. Powerlifters are always having the most fun.
Listen, powerlifters deal with the highest risk of injury, in my opinion. They deserve to have some fun. I mean, they get the crap kicked out of them. 80% of powerlifters, on average,
87.
Get a high amount of powerlifters. The vast majority of them deal with acute and chronic injury, especially as you get deeper into it. So, hey, they deserve to have fun, you know?
They do. They have the most fun. Bodybuilders are, always pretty. Always looking pretty off to the side. Lifting light dumbbells for lateral raises and things like that.
CrossFitters are doing acrobatics all over the damn place.
Oh my God, CrossFitters who just go outside. There's just a line of them handstand walking down the turf. Like, what's happening? Far and away, CrossFitters, in my opinion, of everybody on the team, CrossFitters are the most athletic. Just all around athletic, which I guess is the point, but is pretty awesome to see. And then our kettlebell lifters, this year we had 2. We had Scott and Kelly. They were also kind of talking strategy because they came out there for the kettlebell competition. But as it turns out, nobody else signed up for the kettlebell competition. So rather than just compete in the regular sense, they decided to do expositions and kind of teach other people about kettlebell sport, which kettlebell sport is very different than kettlebell, like just using kettlebells in your workout. Kettlebell sport is doing a long cycle, for example, with 1 kettlebell or 2 for 10 straight minutes and getting as many reps as possible. It is a crazy sport. They are very sort of laser focused on what it is they're doing. Even though it's like just a couple of lifts, there's a tremendous amount of strategy that goes into it. And I think it's a really cool sport personally.
Yeah, I wish it wasn't so underrated, and it seems very intriguing to me, and it's just so technical, which is why I'm attracted to the idea of it. And kettlebells, to master them, it's hard to do, and it's also very useful to learn how to use kettlebells because it just future-proofs your body from injuries, and it also fills in the holes where you have weaknesses so that whatever it is that you're doing that isn't kettlebell sport, even if it's just, being out and about and walking, like, it keeps your body strong from head to toe in ways that other sports actually take away from you, walking around safely and in a healthy body. So kettlebells are just immensely valuable to learn how to use and use well.
Yeah. And the bodybuilders are just, usually very depleted. Of course, they're very close to a show. So they're depleted. Their energy is not what the other team's energy is. But dang, they take some good photos, man. Although, I don't know, the powerlifters photo of them like princess carrying Ryan Stills was pretty hilarious, not gonna lie. So that was the majority of Friday, was just all of these photo shoots and kind of hanging out at the gym and doing kind of like last minute workouts, which some athletes need to do and some athletes really shouldn't do. It just depends on what they're doing. But then Saturday was the actual competitions begin.
And yeah, it was just, let me see, we started off with the bodybuilding. I mean, it's Mr. America, right? So you could say it's a sports festival, but they're partial to bodybuilding. We have our own separate showroom, whereas the rest of the sports are in the exhibition center surrounding the perimeter. And in the center, you have all the vendors and sponsors and supporters and attendees walking around, checking everything out. The bodybuilders have the stage. They have the show, essentially. Like, the day starts off and ends with the bodybuilding competition.
It's also a really long show. It was a really long show.
Even as a competitor, it gets tiring and old, and like it's your moment. I feel for the audience when you have to be there at like 9 a.m. for the judging process. And then sometimes it's like as late as 5 p.m. where you're looking at awards, finals, and presentations.
Well, sometimes it's even longer than that. So this one, I guess, I've seen longer shows, but I kind of wish they had done things in a little bit of a different order. But, they're trying to get as much fanfare as possible. But yeah, I agree with you. Like, I love bodybuilding. I will watch bodybuilding shows even if I don't know anybody on the stage. But for families and stuff that come out to see their brother or their son on stage, you're waiting 8 hours to see your person on stage for 10 minutes, maybe, if you're lucky. That is rough for the audience, I think. But they could get up and leave and go watch the other competitions because CrossFit was going on at the same time in another room, which unfortunately I didn't get to see any of the CrossFit because I was the bodybuilding captain, so I couldn't leave the stage. I was backstage managing the athletes, basically making sure people were mostly where they needed to be. It's always chaos backstage, making sure people were eating or glazed or needed their suits glued to their butts or whatever.
It's the weirdest thing because you would think that you'd have a place to chill, but you really don't.
No.
Most of the times, it's this awkward hallway that almost looks like a kill scene because they have what? Like they have
the paper, the butcher paper everywhere.
So it's just sectioning off the area, but the area is just so tight. It's like literally a hallway that's maybe 4 feet wide and some 30 feet long, or it's only backstage in a small area,
or it's like 140 athletes in a high school classroom, and it's like, okay, guys, just hang out here all day.
Chaos.
Yeah, chaos.
Makeup, tanning, and then just having your own place and then pumping up. So makeup, tanning, pumping up, and everyone somehow finding a place to just sit and wait.
And just body parts flying everywhere. So many full frontal nudity and everywhere.
Bless this person's heart, whoever they are at the show, the expediter is responsible for running around, looking for all the athletes for each lineup ahead of time, and then managing 3 lineups. And that is just like, I don't understand how that person does that. It's like so much to manage. I think they did a pretty good job with that, honestly.
They did a mostly good job, with the exception of one class, which unfortunately we had somebody in. But, we had 7 people competing on our bodybuilding team, right? You, Ed, Justin, Nadej, Jenny, Tiffany, 6. We had 6 people competing.
Are we missing somebody?
I think that's everybody.
Yeah. I'll be embarrassed if we are. Keep going.
No, that was everybody.
Okay.
So we had 6 bodybuilders competing, and there were about 150 competitors in this show total, which is pretty cool. And just about everybody walked away with a placing. Nadej actually won the Miss Bikini, amateur Miss Bikini. She won Open and Masters, which was really, really cool. One, because she's Canadian, and it's funny to think Miss America's Canadian. And it was awesome because she turned pro in 9 different natural organizations all at once, because this is an unaffiliated show, which is cool. Giacomo did super well. He got 3rd in Open and Masters in some really tough lineups. Tiffany got 2nd in figure. Ed got 2nd in physique. It should have been 1st. It just should have been 1st. There's no question. I'm not one to be like, oh man, you got robbed, I don't like it. But there was an issue where he missed getting on stage, and they had to kind of restart the category. And I'm pretty sure they docked him a placing for being late because it wasn't even close. So there was that. Jenny Harrison was the one that we had in the pro show, the pro bodybuilding show in bikini. And that was a little bit rough because it was far and away the best that Jenny has ever looked, ever. I've been working with her for years. She looked insane. And it just wasn't what the judges were looking for that day. Basically, they said more or less that she was too lean, which I actually think is a good problem to have because it's relatively easy to fix. Like, it's easier to fix, oh, you're too lean, you got to fill out more, soften up a little bit. That's easier to do than, hey, you really have to shave off another 3 to 5 pounds. Like, to me, that's way harder. So I guess it's a good position to be in, but it was just kind of surprising and really does go to speak to the caliber of the athletes at this pro show was really, really high. Like, really high. And bikini, in my opinion, is the hardest category to judge far and away because it's the most subjective and seems to change a lot. But, I have no ill feelings about it because at the end of the day, bodybuilding is you versus you. And Jenny kicked her own ass from the years prior. So that was pretty cool. And we have a solid plan for the rest of the shows for the season.
And because she's so depleted and dieted down and so lean, when she eats up, she will look even better than had she had not gotten as depleted on the way down.
Well, the crazy thing is we actually did eat up quite a bit going into this show. They just want more. And again, I think it's a good problem to have. Mm-hmm. No judge has ever said to me, hey girl, you're too lean, better eat up. I would literally start dancing in the street if a judge said that to me. So we'll take it. And Nadej had a totally different peaking strategy and they have very different bodies. And a few people even mentioned that, like, hey, your two bikini athletes on your team, they both compete in bikini, but they look very, very different. And that's true. There are different bodies in bodybuilding, but they're judged based on the same criteria. So, but unfortunately, especially in bikini, that criteria is really subjective. So, if they had been super into Jenny's physique, then Nadej probably wouldn't have won. Do you know what I mean? If they were looking for like super shredded, then maybe somebody else would have placed higher than Nadej, but they were looking for fuller muscles. Nadej did better than Jenny. And of course, it all depends on the lineup itself as well. I don't know if I've ever talked about this on the podcast, but if everybody on stage looks one particular way and one person looks different, they stand out as weird. Versus, if everybody on the stage looked like that one weird person, except for one other person, the other person would look weird. So you're all always compared to the lineup that you are in, which is why somebody can do, well in one class and not well in another class if they're just compared to a different lineup. Sorry, I'll shut up. I should have been an announcer at this goddamn thing. I'm going to ask next year, can I be a commentator? That's what I want to do.
Natty News Daily, though, I thought that they did a really good job, actually, and it was so nice to see them. Look, speaking to all of the other natural athletes and those that are interested and passionate and contribute to the sport of natural bodybuilding, the narrative was pretty unanimous. Everyone was like, this is a celebration of natural bodybuilding, which you don't see at big natural bodybuilding events because there's so much politics that are involved and so many different organizations that it's like almost a downer, because there's like so much awkwardness between each organization, even though nobody wants it like that. It just kind of plays out that way. Yeah. But this, like Danny said, unaffiliated.
Yep.
Sports fest, and it was just like we were all there to just have fun and be natty.
So while that was happening, I don't want to stay too much on bodybuilding. While all that was happening on the bodybuilding stage, in another room, we had Kettlebell doing their expositions at one of the two Vegan Strong booths that we had in the expo hall. Kettlebell was at one of them doing their expos there, and the whole CrossFit team was competing. Now, I wish that I had gotten to see it. I've just seen videos of it, but we had athletes place first, second, and third in their various heats over on the CrossFit stage. I don't know, it wasn't really a stage. They really need more space for that competition next year. That's what we learned. But, they really, really brought it, and it looked hard in those videos. It looked like, wow, this is a super challenge. But it's cool because they got to wear their Vegan Strong team shirts. So there's like no question when you're watching that those guys are vegan, because it is very obvious. As opposed to bodybuilding, you have no idea who's the vegan person and who's not, because you're all in basically nothing and they're not announcing it. So that is one very cool thing about the CrossFit platform.
I missed the entire thing because I was busy competing, but I've seen the CrossFit team compete before on the competition floor, and like Danny said, it's really exciting because there's no question, because they get to put their team uniforms on, and they kicked butt. Like Sally, for example, placed in first like that.
Yeah, Sally got first.
Oh my gosh, Cody took third. He had a lot of people in his division.
Sophie got second, like Sophie
30.
Brock. Cody, before the competition, we were kind of chatting, and I think he said he's 43 years old. And he was starting to think like, ugh, what if I feel 43 years old? Like, when I won, I was 10 years younger. Like, now I'm going up against 20-year-olds. How's this going to go? Well, obviously it went great because he got third, even going up against people, like some of them half his age.
30 plus people.
Yeah. 30 plus people.
Yeah, it's major.
Pretty huge. So yeah, it's just really, really awesome. And all the while over at the Vegan Strong booth, our volunteers were just passing out literature about a plant-based diet, how to, become more plant-based, lots of recipes, sample meal plans, giving out a ton of our sponsors' products.
The jerky, the protein powder, and other supplements.
Pre-workout, BCAAs, electrolytes. Jerky went fast because that Unisaur jerky is insanely good. And just getting it into the hands of people who otherwise would probably be using, animal-based supplements. Now they get to try these things, and they have a whole group of people there to answer questions. So yeah, Saturday was a big success. And the powerlifters, while all this was going on, because they didn't compete till Sunday, they kind of like split their time in between the two, the CrossFit competition and the bodybuilding competition, to just come out and support whoever was on at that moment. So that was really, really cool of them. There was a great amount of camaraderie between the teams, not like in some years past, it's been almost like a competition between the bodybuilders and the powerlifters. And I didn't feel that at all this year. Everybody just seemed, and I think, we've grown up quite a bit and it's different faces. And I think, it was just much more like, oh, but the bodybuilders were like, I've never seen a powerlifting meet. This is really cool. And the powerlifters were like, I've actually never seen a bodybuilding competition. Like, tell me why they're moving people around. Like, what's happening here? And it was a good chance to sort of educate each other on our various sports. Sunday was the powerlifting meet.
And oh my gosh, did they bring it. And I don't just mean the athletes on our team. I mean the whole platform. It was a super supportive environment, super hyped out, thanks in large part to the MC, Gino. I don't know if he goes by the pirate, but like he definitely looks pirate-like.
He looks like a pirate.
Yeah, quite the performer, quite the MC. And he was all about making sure that the audience knew we were representing veganism and that we were the Vegan Strong Plantbuilt team. At one point, we brought him product. We're like, hey, you want to distribute some product because we have enough to support your audience? And he's like, yes. And like every time someone hit up a lift or answered a question showing their knowledge of powerlifting, he just like threw a pre-workout or a protein at them. It was quite the show. And well, look, how about what we're really here for? The athletes, like they brought it.
Yes. And I want to give so the athletes I think I left out some of the people on the CrossFit team. I mentioned the people who placed, but I didn't mention the other people. So George Matthews captained the CrossFit team and did a phenomenal job kind of managing them. We also had Emily Louise, Lindsay Morgan, and Brian Jervey, who unfortunately got injured. He was doing great, but he got injured and it was recommended that he discontinue. So we had, our CrossFit team was kicking ass. On our powerlifting team, we had Brittany Billings, Katya Gorbacheva, Nick Squires, Ndame Nkame, Daniel Austin, Noah Hannibal, all the way from Australia, and Ryan Stills. Now, Ryan Stills couldn't actually compete with us because 3 days after, he had to go to IPF Worlds in Canada to compete. So you can't compete 3 days back-to-back in powerlifting. You shouldn't even compete 3 months back-to-back in powerlifting. But what he did was backstage, Ryan managed the entire powerlifting team. He coached them. He told them exactly when to do their warm-ups. And Brittany Billings is she's my client, right? So traditionally it would be me back there telling her what to do. But let me explain to you. I 100% trusted Ryan. 100%. This was his wheelhouse, and I could see that. And sometimes you need to know when you're outdone, and Ryan has 30 years of competitive powerlifting experience. He squatted 600 pounds in the gym on Friday for fun.
Like it was a joke.
Like it was nothing. 600 pounds. So he was hyping up all of the athletes. He was handling all of them. And he was helping other athletes too, like not even our team. It was just, to me as a coach, watching another coach in their specific element, it was the coolest thing. He's like a powerlifting Zen god. And every call he made for the athletes, in my opinion, was correct. Every single one. He'd see one of them lift and be like, I think we can do 2.5 more kilos, for their next attempt. And it was right. And they'd be like, I want to do 5. And he'd like, I think we should do 2.5. And then they'd go up for their next attempt and just barely get it. And they were like, you're right. I couldn't have done 5. And it was just awesome. Just awesome. And everybody annihilated it.
Mm-hmm. We even won a team trophy, and the powerlifting team has mentioned many times over that we were a very small group of powerlifters, and yet we still managed to have a podium placing. We took 3rd as far as there were teams that are a lot larger than us, and I'm not sure exactly what that means, but I'm wondering if larger teams just put up more total pounds or have more chances to win, and that's why like their team can collect more placings, and then the team just places higher. I'm guessing that's what it meant. Right? So we had fewer chances for placings, but we had enough placings cumulatively, even as a small team, to take top 3.
There was just some awesome stuff to see. Brittany actually got sick on that day, and I was like, if you can't do it, you can't do it. I'm not going to make you lift while you're sick. Not only did she do it, but she did hit a lifetime PR of a 320-pound deadlift, which was really, really exciting, especially for a newer power lifter. Katya was insane. She's one of the most, she might be the most intense female power lifter I know to actually watch lift. Like, it was awesome.
I gotta say, I absolutely love Katya's energy. I feel like her and I, for some reason, I don't know what it is, but we gel. Like, I knew it beforehand, before I even met her. I'm like, she's gonna be fire. She's intense, and I love her for it. We need people like that, and she did not disappoint. That is her personality, and she was able to display that with a display of strength on stage, and it was very exciting to watch.
I came home with the same vibes. Katya is just awesome. Very fun person, very awesome athlete, very smart, super kind. I didn't eat anything on Saturday because I was running around like crazy, and she went out of her way on a day she's competing, mind you, to make sure that I had food and water, which was just like so unbelievably kind. And I won't forget that. But she also squatted 363 pounds. Like, are you shitting me?
Like, it wasn't a thing.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was just awesome. Dan, Austin. I don't remember everybody's numbers, especially because they were in kilograms. So I'm not gonna be able to.
Dan, I love Dan for the fact that he is the perfect score guy. He goes 27 for 27, 9 for 9. And increases his total every single time. And him and I actually did that at the last competition together, which was a memory I'll never forget because I'll probably never powerlift again because I want to be a better bodybuilder. But like, he's still doing his thing. His total keeps going up, and he hits every attempt. And all 3 judges that watch all of his 9 attempts all say, yes, the lift was good from the left, the right, and from the front, which is why he goes 27 for 27. Everybody says, every single call is like, dude, you're good.
Did he compete in Masters? Was it Masters?
I don't remember.
I'm not sure if he did Masters or not, but regardless, Dan is not he's not a huge guy. He's 180 pounds, and he's, I don't know, I think he's like around my height, so he's not a huge guy, and he squatted 469, deadlifted 518, and he said his oblique was bothering him that day, so he wasn't sure if he was going to be able to do it. Indame has not competed since 2017. He hasn't competed since 2017, and he deadlifted 600 pounds.
Floored.
And all of his lifts, you could tell when you were watching, like, you could have done more than that. You totally could have. But it was just so cool to not just see him come back, like, rip 600 pounds off the floor.
Yeah.
Nick Squires, no surprises there. He absolutely crushed it as well. He placed first in the 100 kilogram men's open. He squatted 584, benched 374, and deadlifted 634.
I don't think he missed a single lift. Did he?
I don't think
He might
so.
have missed one. I honestly though, like,
I don't think so.
And it seemed like he went out there with pretty much as much in the tank. Like, he used pretty much everything in his tank and was still successful with his attempts. Put it that way.
It was just super cool. And then Noah Hannibal competed in the bench only. So Noah Hannibal came all the way over from Australia to bench press. And I can't explain this enough. He is such a sweetheart of a man. He was so kind and quiet and smiley. And then this dude comes out and screams at the barbell before he lies down to bench press it. I was not expecting that, but it was awesome. He matched the Australian Masters bench press record on attempt 1. And then he kept going. So he broke the record on attempt 2. And then on attempt 3, he benched over 400 pounds. Over 400 pounds.
Damn.
As a Masters lifter, which is over 40. And he's been vegan for 30 years.
He traveled too. That matters.
And he
Traveling
traveled
can screw you
across
up.
the world.
Yeah.
So it was just super, super cool. And honestly, I think all of the lifters were improved by Ryan being there. And that was just that in and of itself. And I got to give a shout out to Ryan because he didn't compete that day, but he competed 3 days later in Newfoundland, Canada. And I'm trying to remember exactly. I don't remember his exact numbers, but he took first place in his weight class in the world, okay? In the world, in his weight class in Masters. And I want to say that he squatted 683 pounds. I don't remember his deadlift number, but it was over 400 pounds. And he deadlifted. Did I just say deadlift?
Yeah, you
Oh,
misspoke.
I don't remember his bench number, but it was over 400 pounds. And then he deadlifted
It was in the 700s.
717 pounds.
Something like that.
I think it was 717 on his second attempt. And then on his third attempt, he went for 775. 775 pounds, guys.
Got it.
And he 100% had it. He got all the way to the top. He locked it out. And before they said the down command, the bar fell out of his hands. So he didn't get it. He still won first place in the world in his weight class. I think if he had gotten that final one, he would have been number one Masters, period, out of all the weight classes.
Oh my gosh.
Which I think is why he went for it when he had already won, basically, at that point.
Gotcha.
But my God, it was so awesome. And thus concludes me explaining every single thing that happened in the plant-built competitions.
Competition-wise, yeah. We met a lot of people as well in the audience and several vegans too that were competing there.
We met a couple of vegans competing in the strongman competition who had nothing to do with us.
Nope. So that was pretty exciting, and there may be a possibility for a representation with our team in that sport. We'll see. We get kind of, me personally, I get kind of skittish about strongman sport because there's a tendency to dope, and we really don't want to infiltrate a sport where there's not a level playing field, but there's also vegan athletes, and it's a show that celebrates.
We'll see.
Maybe. It's a possibility. But then I remember the powerlifting team told us a story about how there was this vegan dude that they met on the street, and they were like, people give me so much of a hard time for being vegan, and just telling me that like I can't be strong or like I'm malnourished, and y'all give me hope. And they took a picture with him. Like there were just like a lot of good interactions, not just with non-vegans, with those that were vegan as well, that we just came across.
Yeah, it was really, really awesome. And at the end of the day, what we really want to do is make some waves. We just want to help dispel the myth that you need to eat animal proteins and animal food in order to be a competitive strength athlete, because it's not true. People say, oh, why is it always meat eaters that win? Well, because vegans make up 1% to 2% of the population. And this is a weird random sport in the first place. Like you're looking for a niche within a niche within a niche. We are that. And we're just trying to show what you can do. So if somebody's on the fence, and there are a lot of people on the fence, there are a lot of people who participate in sports and strength sports specifically who are interested in a vegan diet. They're interested in going plant-based, but they're afraid of losing their gains. And we just want to be there to help them not do that, not lose their gains, and show them they can be just as strong and help them avoid some of the pitfalls like we talked in one of the last episodes about.
Send them to plantbuilt.com. They can look at the bio for any one of our athletes. You can see the results in more detail on plantbuilt.com. Check out @plantbuilt on Instagram. Go to Facebook and type in plantbuilt, or it's /Vegan Olympia.
Athena actually made a TikTok for Plant-Built also.
TikTok.
We don't have a TikTok.
And you can
But Plant-Built does.
Yeah, and we went like wild. We went crazy. We just posted thanks to our volunteers. Got to thank our 8 volunteers. Brandon, Brad, Athena,
Tamra,
Alex,
Natalie.
Yeah.
Yep. A lot of people.
Yep. You were missing one person there. I forgot who it was.
Jim.
There we are.
Obviously, Jimmy.
Yeah. So they captured the moments and put them out there on social media. So it's all out there to check out. Also, we'll leave this all in the show notes as well. So you can just look in the show notes. Look also for the link for Mr. America, the live stream. We'll include it in the show notes as well. So can you still check it out?
I don't know.
I hope so. But even if you can, the All Sports Network covered it, and you can download the app for that on Amazon or on your Roku box, and you should be able to watch the show after the fact. So we'll definitely leave links so you can access all this. Hey listeners, we hope you've been enjoying this episode, and we appreciate your love of all things vegan fitness. For those of you who want even more support on your vegan fitness journey, check out our Muscles by Brussels community and become a member. By joining the team, you are one of our exclusive VIPs. As a member, you'll find over 200 macro-friendly, high-protein recipes that can meet any of your meal planning needs. You'll also receive training programs that update monthly. This training has progressive overload built into it, so you can be sure if you're following the program, you are making progress. All of this and more is located inside our Vegan Proteins members only app. As a Muscles by Brussels member, you'll unlock bonus courses, challenges, and more every month. You'll also be invited to our live Zoom video calls, which happen 2 times a month, and are absolute gold to those who show up. And if you can't make the calls, don't worry, you have the opportunity to email us whenever you want. You'll receive a video response to all of your questions from one of the coaches here at Vegan Proteins every time you message us. Members also receive 40% off many of our other services. And of course, our private community of like-minded individuals is like no other. Best of all, you can try this membership out for a full month at no cost to you with this special offer for our listeners only, because we appreciate and want to fully support you. Use the link in our show notes to sign up for your free trial today. We hope to see you on our next live coaching call. All right, we're going to move on to a question and answer segment where Belinda is asking for a good stim-free pre-workout. She likes pre-workout, but would like to really cut down on caffeine consumption. Most pre-workouts have 200 milligrams, which is quite a punch. I happen to agree with you, Belinda.
Yeah. So a lot of people say, well, why would you bother taking a pre-workout if it doesn't have caffeine in it? But there are a lot of ingredients in pre-workouts that actually do help aid in your workout that aren't just stimulants. And the one we're going to talk about today is actually from Plantbuilt's #1 sponsor, which is Zhou. ZHOU. They make a vegan, non-stimulant pre-workout. It's in the berry lemonade flavor, and there's no caffeine in it, which I am also very caffeine sensitive, so I avoid caffeinated pre-workouts. And I think this one is really good. If you go back and listen to some of our podcast about supplements, this was years ago. I remember recording it in our basement. We talk about some of the supplements that we think do work and are worthwhile. And a lot of those supplements are in this, and they appear to be in therapeutic doses as well. So inositol arginine silicate, which is very similar to betaine, which is something that when we were kind of making our own pre-workout, that was something that we would use. That has 1.5 grams of that. It has 2 full grams of citrulline malate, which we also do recommend taking during your workout. And it also has this proprietary blend, which generally I'm not a fan of proprietary blends, especially when they have real hard hitters in them, because you don't know how much of everything that you're getting. So anytime you see proprietary blend on anything, you should be raising an eyebrow a little bit. Like, tell me exactly how much of everything is in here. But with this particular proprietary blend, it's all like kind of like what I would call like extras or bonuses. Like, so it's tart cherry, hawthorn berry, bilberry, grape, all of these seed extracts here. So it's just a tiny little bit, but I do think tart cherry is if there was a food that I think like has some benefits out, I don't like the word superfood because I think lots of foods are superfoods, but I do think there are benefits to tart cherry.
Oh yeah, the ORAC value on tart cherry is really, really good. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it's something that I've been using and supplementing with for, I want to say 15, 20 years. It's just one of those ingredients that work.
Yeah, and it's only got 15 calories and 2 grams of carbs in it. So a lot of times a non-stim pre-workout, usually part of it is just that it's really high in carbohydrates. It's high in sugar, which sugar can aid your workouts, but a lot of us don't want to just have sugar before we go work out. So I like this one because it does not have that. So that's pretty exciting. So if you are interested, I would definitely recommend checking out Zhou. They also make, in my opinion, one of the coolest, possibly the coolest plant-based protein powder out there. It's just a pea and rice blend, but It is fermented with shiitake mushrooms, and what this does is it makes it more highly digestible, and it gives it a 1 PEDCAS score, which is equivalent to whey in terms of digestibility. So that's cool. So if you've ever had like pea or rice protein powder kind of bloat you a little bit, I have found that this one doesn't do that, and I'm pretty sure that that's why. So I would check it out. They don't have the cool flavors yet like other companies do. They just have chocolate and vanilla. I hope they come out with some new ones because the formula itself is really, really cool.
They have a really good BCAA blend too.
Yeah, that is very... We don't really do a lot of BCAAs, but it is very yummy. All right, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Vegan Protein's Muscles by Brussels Radio. If you have any questions, comments, topics you would like us to cover, please reach out to us, coach@veganproteins.com. You can also find us on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, @veganproteins and @muscles by Brussels. As always, my name's Danny.
And I'm Giacomo.
And we will talk to you soon.
Stand in the